Morning, folks. It is your favorite neighborhood beta tester here. It is Monday morning. I'm going to tell you that there really isn't too much information to share about the beta at this moment. Um, that's not what the purpose of this video is. It is about the beta. It is about Relic Delta, and I do have multiple points to make. But it's not about how things are going. Obviously, over the weekend, CG doesn't really work on the weekends. Why should they? That's not how life works for people in corporate America, and work life balance is important. What this is about is really the news cycle that I've been seeing in the game throughout the weekend. And as people know, I spend a lot of time scouring through, Reddit, Discord, lots of different Discords, my own, the event server, Arnold server, Nooch's server, Scribe server, all these different places where lots of players like to congregate. And in the interest in this video, we're going to skip the intro because I don't think it's appropriate here. But there's a theme that I have noticed over the weekend, and it is a discussion that I have had multiple times in multiple avenues. And the catalyst for this video itself is actually a Reddit post that I saw on, I think it was Saturday morning. But it's not the only one, right? This is not just a Reddit thing. So in the comments, when people say screw Reddit, you shouldn't be on Reddit, I know. I've only been on it more recently, again, specifically to get more information out about this beta. Um, and I want to read the post in its entirety before I respond to it and a lot of what I see people saying. The title of the post is "It's Not Their Fault. They Are Being Manipulated." If I'm CG and I wanted someone to sugarcoat a really bad update, I'm targeting a very specific kind of person, someone who loves the game and wants it to do well, even despite poor changes. Someone who is capable of digesting the changes. Someone who is also good at talking to people and explaining things. Someone who takes personal satisfaction from helping. Someone who will either accept pay to test, which we have not, by the way, and feel naturally indebted, or even better, someone who will do it for free so that they don't get accused of being a shill. Bonus points if they already have large viewer bases that trust them. They are obviously all good traits that are being used against the most well-known members of this community intentionally. It's not the content creators' faults. This was a very shrewd decision by CG to manipulate good people and take advantage of our trust in them. This is not a personal attack on any of them. Content creators should never be beta testers because of various conflicts of interest. CG is exploiting those conflicts to push what they know would be very unpopular. Um, I just want to say, and again, this is not just a Reddit post. I've seen this all over quite a few servers. And I also want to say that in all of the negativity that I've seen in my DMs and my comments, I have seen just as much positivity, and a lot of people have reached out with positive thoughts. But in direct response to this, and I can't speak for anybody else, but I'd like to think that they feel the same way. I am not a victim. CG is not victimizing me. I am not trapped in what I'm doing, and I made a choice to do something for reasons that are my own. Um, CG is not manipulating me. They might think that they're manipulating me, but I have been given full freedom to say whatever I want to say about this update. Um, and and I have chosen to do that. And some of the things that I have said have been very negative, and some of the things that I have said are very positive. And a lot of players are choosing not to accept the negative things that I have said and are choosing to feel like I am brainwashed anytime I say something um, positive, right? And typically those are completely unrelated thoughts, right? So I will say, hey, this is a bad idea. This is a terrible idea. Please don't do this. It's going to hurt players for XYZ reason. But hey, there is some good stuff for TB. And everyone hears that as I love this update. And I've seen that in the comment sections of a lot of creators. The reality is the position that we have been put into is one where we understand that this change is coming, unless a very large majority of spenders just walk away. This change is coming, and we have been given the choice to either bury our heads in the sand, or test it meaningfully and with purpose to make sure that the update itself is at least equitable in some degree. And I will say that over the weekend, I know Fatal did some amazing testing, and he did a lot of testing on a lot of his favorite teams and was saying, even at a 3 or 4 relic differential, a lot of these teams are still winning. I tested against some of my favorite teams. The Treya team at a 4 relic differential was still beating the Jar Jar, the Gungans team, as an example. And I've requested that my account be dropped even lower so that I can test that 5 relic differential as well. But the purpose and the point is that we've been put in a position where we, have to sculpt something that we don't believe in. Well, we don't have to. Um, where we've chosen to sculpt something in a way that we feel will work the best that it can work. And all of us are free to walk away if we want to, and all of us are free to tell CG to pound sand if we want to. But I'm going to let you in on a key little secret. We obviously see a larger degree of things than we are allowed to share, and those things I can't share. But what I can tell you is that through our feedback loop and through the discussions that have happened with CG, and through the feedback that we've received in return, um, I do believe, with the information that we have, not that this update is good, because I don't. And I do think that they need to walk this back significantly. But I do believe that this test was released in earnest, that this test is happening in good faith, that this test is not intended to be a manipulation, and that CG was looking for actual and real feedback to make adjustments. Uh, this next part, I guess, was privileged information. I did reach out to Meathead on, I think, Friday night. I think it was Friday night. And I had a conversation with him, and I did specifically request that he allow me to say this next piece. And he kind of said, like, look, you can, you don't have to. I don't want you, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I'm giving you clearance to say it. And for those of you who are newer to the game, or those of you who have the memory of a goldfish, which I'm told isn't even a realistic depiction of a goldfish, because apparently goldfish have pretty decent memories. About 3 to 4 years ago, there was a beta program that was doing pretty well for EA, and I was not part of that because I wasn't really part of the community in the same way that I am now. And that beta test, or program, tested pretty much everything that came to this game. So it tested character kits, it tested new features, it tested TB, it tested everything. And you might remember that previous to this, that a lot of things came to the game a lot less broken. And what happened with Datacrons was that somebody in that test was so unhappy with Datacrons that they leaked it to the public before it was intended to be put to the public. And CG and EA completely shut down their beta program. And we haven't had a test since. And as luck would have it, we've seen a lot more broken things come to the game after they've gone through QA testing, because there's no last layer of testing where the players who are intentioned in breaking things are actually putting out their thoughts and doing what they do best, which is breaking things and finding the most efficient way to do things. And I don't think Meathead was part of this game at that time. I don't remember him being part of the game. I believe it was still the previous community manager. Um, but and I don't know how long he's been doing what I'm about to say, but Meathead really went to bat to champion the idea of having a beta program. Um, and he went to bat for really pushing to make sure that we, as players, and some of the people in the beta test are not content creators, but who are more prominent players. We as players, part of it, and part of the expression here. And the important part of that is that if this goes well, and by well, I don't mean that Delta gets released, but I do mean that nothing gets leaked. The hope is to expand the program again and make it a more consistent program, which will allow for a testing feedback loop, which will hopefully allow for a more positive experience overall. So it is really frustrating to see on Discord and on Reddit, like, you can say whatever you want about CG, I guess, but about us going through this and trying to paint us as the poster children for victimization. Because again, I can only speak for myself, but I do not feel victimized. I do feel attacked, but I do not feel victimized. Um, I've also seen that a lot of players have talked about the conspiracy theory of CG starting with really high numbers and walking back those numbers. And those numbers being walked back are not part of the feedback loop, but are just what they intended in the first place. And I'm going to tell you that I am a business owner, and a lot of the people that I do interact with in this game are people who are in business, um, in management and leadership positions. And for those of you who are not, that's the only way to do it. You don't start with low numbers and build them higher, because that never ends well from a perception point of view. It's basically company 101 to always start high and walk back, because it's better for people to be really pissed off and then less pissed off than it is to have them less pissed off, realize you've made a mistake, and then have to piss them off even more. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just how every single market works in literally everything. Um, I'm not telling you to like the update. I'm not telling you to like Relic Delta at all. I fully support people's uh, ability to boycott and to sign the petition and to walk away from the game, or completely stop their spending. I completely support every single person who chooses to do that. But don't paint the news cycle outside of what it actually is. Now, what I will say to CG at this moment, and I've said this since day one, and I've had to repeat it so many times, and I've actually joked on my Discord about having to have a copy paste of this. Um, there is some sort of thing that we're missing. Um, you know, this may have been in development for a year. I don't know. This may have been in development starting before MSF started Overpower. I don't know. But we've seen the feedback loop and of players versus company when it comes to Marvel's Overpower. And anybody with half a brain would look at that and say, well, hey, wait a second. The players over here have reacted in a negative way with their wallets to the point where there is significant walkbacks. Maybe we should reconsider. And I very strongly feel that there is some sort of context that we are missing. There is something that we are not being told. And if there is a something that we are not being told, it really needs to be expressed to the community. It really needs to be expressed to the content creators who, at this point, are facing the majority of the backlash. But it really needs to be expressed to the community. I see a lot of solutions. I see a lot of people saying, do Relic 10, do this, do that, give us 7-star mods, give us this testing environment, and that'll solve all the problems. The problem is that the problem is unknown. We don't know what the problem is. We don't know what the thing we're trying to solve is. We have what CG leaves is the problem, or the solution rather, but we don't have the problem. And all we can do is make a guess. Oh, this would be not a problem if they just fixed GAC matchmaking. Nobody said GAC matchmaking was the problem that was causing this solution. Um, and I am a very strong advocate of getting that context. And I said this yesterday on Discord. I I wake up every day feeling like I am going to get kicked out of the beta program because of how much feedback I consistently give on the idea of there is something you're not telling us. Please tell us this something. Um, and I'm hoping that we get that thing. Um, what I will say as a final thought is I had a great conversation on Discord yesterday about content creation and the need to attack people and why people feel that way. And I'm not going to rehash that entire conversation here. But what I am going to say is that there is a general notice that in people, not in this game, not in on Reddit, not on the internet, but just people are more willing to react negatively than positively. And we want everybody to react in a positive way. And positive way doesn't mean always saying the nice thing, or it doesn't always mean saying something that's polite, or it doesn't always mean saying only offering compliments. But it does mean, when you have criticism, doing it in a very particular way. Um, we all want people to be more civilized, and we are not willing to call out uncivilized behavior, which, is a callback to Obi-Wan. And yes, you should all be more like Obi-Wan. When you see that type of behavior called out, say to people, hey, I get your opinion, but that's not the right way, and you're being rude, and that's just not how people should act. Um, in the meantime, I will continue to test. Relic Delta, as far as we are aware, it's coming to the game. Um, as it currently stands in version 2, even though I do believe that version 2 is much better than version 1, and is a step in the right direction. If version 2 were released tomorrow, I think that we would see a 20 to 30% exodus in dollars. I don't know about in players, but in dollars for the game, which would be a distinct and largely very negative thing for CG. And yeah, I don't want that to happen. Not because I care about the dollars funneling through CG to Disney, because this is a game that I enjoy, and this is a game that I love, and this is a game that is much deeper than anything that I've played, and is something that is much further, much longer term than anything I've ever played, ever. And the game is so complex and interesting, and there's so many layers to it, which is why I've taken to it, and I don't want to see that happen. So my promise is, I am going to keep fighting. I am going to keep pushing, and I am going to keep asking those hard questions, and I am going to keep annoying Meathead and whoever else that I need to annoy to get to those answers and to put this in a place where it is acceptable. But I need the people watching this to also understand, that at this point, as much as I can say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, that it's happening. And I can either be an ostrich and put my head in the sand and say, well, good luck, do your best. Or I can say, let's work together and let's make this manageable and let's make this reasonable and let's do this in a smart way. And even if there are negatives, let's make sure that the positives outweigh the negatives, right? So it's kind of like content contract negotiations when my school union does their negotiations with the school board. And actually, my district, I don't even think our contract is finalized now, and it should have been finalized last year. So we have very, very strict things we're allowed to do and very strict things that we are not allowed to do. We're not allowed to go above and beyond right now. We're only allowed to do the letter of the law contract stuff. Um, every time there's a contract negotiation, there's a give and take. There is a okay, we're going to get a 3% raise here, but the teachers are agreeing to doing, I don't know, once a week before school tutoring for any students that need it, something like that. Um, that's just how it works, and I'd rather be in the room where it happens than sitting idly by and just allowing things to fall where they fall. So what I am going to finalize here is, yes, I appreciate the support and the reach out and the people who have said very nice things to me, and the people who have, stood by and understood what I'm trying to do. And I even understand the people in my comments who have said they disagree with my take, but who have been very, very smart in the way they've handled their comments, and very reasonable and rational in their counterpoints. And while I have not been able to respond to many of them because there's just so many of them, I do read all of them, and I often go, wow, like that was a really good post, like awesome job. Um, I appreciate both of those camps. And for the people who are hard headed and are unwilling to be rational, and who are unwilling to be reasonable, and who are unwilling to, treat other people like they are people, just unfollow me, I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't have time for you. I've been more and more active in blocking those people on Discord and blocking those people on Reddit. And I can't block those people on YouTube. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe there is a system. Just unfollow me. Don't watch my crap. It's fine. I don't need you in my life. I don't need that negativity in my life. I've had enough negativity in my life. We've all had enough negativity in our lives. But I will do my best to make sure that I leave no stone unturned when it comes to this beta. And if this beta goes well, and by well, I mean they continue it, and if I am asked to continually do this, um, I will continue to do that. And I will continue to ask the hard questions, and I will continue to mold things in the background, and the things that you guys, if this gets released, and you'll never know that I've had a hand in, and that's okay because I know that, hey, I shaped that thing. So, for the fourth time, as I say in my last thought, happy Monday. Hopefully, we get a version 3 this week. Hopefully, we have a lot more interesting things to share with you throughout the week. I'm knocking on wood here, and, have a great rest of your day.